Okay, this is the beginning of Unit 2. This is 2.1 slope-intercept form. I'm sure that you touched on this last year. So we're just going to review some things and add some new things. So the first thing I want to touch on is the actual form. So slope-intercept form of a line is y equals mx plus b. So the m is the slope, and the b is your y-intercept. Always the same. So that format is the slope-intercept form. So I'm just going to touch on something called transformation form. So when a line is in this form, I'm going to tell you what each piece of it means. So this transformation form compares the line to the parent. So if you look at the number that is where the A is, that is what can narrow, widen, or reflect the image compared to the parent. We're going to talk about this more as we go on. The H, which is right here, can shift the line left or right, which in your book, they call it a horizontal shift. And it's opposite of the sign. So if you have subtraction, it's going to shift to the right. If you have addition, it's going to shift to the left. All right, the K, which is right here, tells you how much it shifts up or down, which the book calls a vertical shift. And this is compared to the parent. Okay, now let's just review how to get slope between 2 points. Here's your slope formula. I like to call it the wine glass formula, and I'll tell you why. So if you look at the y's, they look like little wine glasses. And then the x's are the legs on a picnic table. You always want your wine glasses on top of the picnic table. So that's how I remember the slope formula. I call it the wine glass formula. Let's just practice a bit. Let's find the slope between the points 3, 5 and negative 2, 8. So I'm going to take my second y and subtract my first y, and I'm going to take over my second x and subtract my first x. So my slope here is 3 over negative 5. So m equals negative 3 over 5. To find the slope between points negative 4 and negative 1 and negative 1, 3, I'm going to take my second y and subtract my first y, which is minus a negative, and then my second x and subtract my first x. So this is going to become positive. This is going to be positive. So I have 4 over 3. So m equals 4 thirds. Okay. So also from last year, you should remember that slope is also the rise over the run. So to find the slope of this line, I'm going to make a triangle. So I'm going to go from left to right. So the rise is down. So I'm going to have negative 2 and over 1. So my slope is negative 2. Just a review from last year. Now let's get into some new stuff. So let's write some equations. So write an equation, and this is all in slope-intercept form. We're going to talk about a couple different forms, but this is all in slope-intercept form, which is, remember, y equals mx plus b. If the slope of a line is 2 and it has a y-intercept of 6, what is the equation of the line in slope-intercept form? Well, we need to plug in slope where the m is and the y-intercept where the b is. So we have y equals 2x minus 6. The next one says, if the y-intercept is 7 and the slope is 1 and is 1/2, what is the equation of the line and slope-intercept form? Again, we're going to plug in the slope where the m is, and we're going to plug in the y-intercept where the b is. So we have y equals 1/2 x plus 7. All right, so let's move to something a little tougher. So the next one says, if a line passes through the point 1, 6 and has a slope of -2, what is the equation of the line in slope-intercept form? Okay, sorry about the dog. Can't guarantee she won't do it again. All right, so we have this point, this point, and the slope. So let's see, let's fill in the information we have. So we have this, y equals mx plus b. I have y equals -2x plus b. So we need to find the b. So if I plug in the coordinates to that point for my x and y, I can solve and get my b. So I'm going to plug in 6 where the y is and 1 where the x is, and I'm going to solve for b. 6 equals -2 plus b. If I add 2 to each side, I know that my b is 8. So I keep the slope I was given in the problem, so y equals -2x, and I put in the b that I just solved for, which is 8. Okay, so the next one takes away even more information. If a line passes through the points 1, 4, and 2, 3, what is the equation of the line in slope-intercept form? So we know we need a slope and a y-intercept. So we have to use the wine glass or the slope formula to find the slope first. So let me write my points out here. So I'm going to plug my points into the wine glass formula. So I have 3 minus 4 over 2 minus 1, which gives me 3 minus 4 is -1 over 1. So my slope is -1. So now I can plug that into my equation. Y equals -1x plus b. I can use either one of the points that I choose. So I'm going to just use the first one right here. I'm going to plug in my x, y coordinates. So I'm going to plug in the 4 where the y is and the 1 where the x is to solve for my y-intercept or b. So I have 4 equals -1 plus b. If I add 1 to each side, b is 5. So now I'm going to put all my information together. So I have y equals -1 or -x plus 5. All right, the next example. If a line crosses the x-axis at 7 and the y-axis at 5, what is the equation of the line and slope-intercept form? So if it crosses the x-axis at 7, that means that point is 7, 0. And the y-axis at -5, that means that point is 0, -5. So now we can get the information we need from that. Let's find our slope first. I have -5 minus 0 over 0 minus 7, which gives me -5 over -7, which is 5/7. So m is 5/7. Okay, let's plug that in. We don't even need to find the y-intercept because they already told us. It's right here. So our formula, we're going to plug in our m, and then this is our y-intercept. They give it to you. All right, so let's look at another one. If a line passes through the point -1, 7, and 3, 10, What's that equation? So again, we need a slope and we need a y-intercept. So let's use the wine glass formula to find the slope. So I have 10 minus 7 is 3, and 3 minus negative 1. Oops, this should be negative. Sorry. Let me go back. Happy the point's wrong. So let's go back here. So I have 10 minus 7 still, and I have negative 3 minus negative 1. That becomes positive. So I have 3 over negative 2, so negative 3/2. So there's my slope. I need to find my y-intercept. So this is going to be kind of fractiony. I am going to plug in one of the points, and I'm going to use the first one. So I have y equals negative 3/2 x plus b. I'm going to plug in the coordinates. So up here I have 7 equals negative 3/2 times negative 1 plus b. So I have 7 equals, and negative 3/2 times negative 1 gives me positive 3/2, or 1.5, any way you choose to look at that, plus b. I'm going to do it this way. So if I add 1.5 to each side, I have b equals 8.5, or so this actually should be positive up here. Right here is positive because a negative times a negative is positive. So this is positive, and I'm actually going to subtract 1.5. Subtract that 1.5. Sorry about that. And so 6 minus 1.5 will be, or 7 minus 1.5, sorry, is 5.5 equals b, which is 11/2. So b, goodness gracious, b is 11/2. Okay, so here's my equation. Y equals negative 3/2 x plus 11/2. All right, let's go back and practice graphing. So graph and slope intercept form. So you plot the y-intercept and you use the slope and move from the y-intercept using rise over run. Okay, so let's see these examples in motion. So the first one is y equals negative 2x plus 5. So 5 is your starting point on the y-axis. So I'm going to count up to positive 5 and make my first point. My slope is negative 2 over 1. So my rise is down. So negative 2, right 1, down 2, right 1. Continue like that. Now I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to go up 2, but left 1, up 2, but left 1. So you can only use that negative sign once, either on the rise or the run. This next one, our starting point or our y-intercept is negative 3 on the y-axis. Our slope is 1/2. So up 1 over 2, rise 1, run 2. Now we're going to go the opposite direction. Now make them both negative instead of positive. So down 1, left 2, down 1, left 2. Continue the pattern like that. The next one, here's my starting point. Negative 5, 6. So down 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, this last one is pretty important. It has to be in this format in order to graph. So we got to move this around. So I'm going to add 6. So 3y equals 3x plus 6. Now I'm going to divide by 3. Y equals x plus 2. Now you can go ahead and graph. So my starting point is 2 and my slope So there's your graph.